question is, what's the fastest way to read results? What are the first UI elements that my eyes should look at once opening a dashboard or experiment? Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, this is a very rookie question, so I'm really sorry about this. I'm Ivano. I'm an Italian, but I'm based in Spain. I'm a product designer. I work for a night gaming company based in UK, and currently we run a lot of experiments. We go for low effort experiments that allows us to take data-driven decisions, which of course are crucial for any user experience. But these experiments are often run from IPM, even if we decide, both of us, on what to experiment with my tribe, with my group, and with engineers. And yeah, he's taking the lead into setting them up. As a designer, I like to communicate visually, but sometimes with these dashboards and experiments, it's kind of easy to get distracted, overwhelmed, a lot of numbers, a lot of data, a lot of charts. And yeah, I would love to know, how can I improve that? I would love to improve where my eyes are going, let's say, and get, if any, pro tricks like that maybe I'm unaware of, or things that maybe are implicit even. So yeah, it would be great if you can point them out. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
I'd love to take this one. And Beth, if I can take over screen share, I've got a experiment UI pulled up. That's probably the best way to show everyone. So let me share my screen. All right. Is everyone able to see the notifications to purchase experiment? Okay,
Yep.
perfect. What we're seeing here, and Ivano, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, not introductory question at all. I think this is a really good question because a lot of times folks, clients are looking at, yes, theoretically understand the functionality of Amplitude, but once you get into it, it's really helpful to see what are you actually getting once you set up an experiment and you start to see data populate the stats and the charts that Amplitude auto generates for you. And this, what you're looking at now, is an UI for an experiment that's been running for a while. We haven't hit complete experiment yet, but this is a fictional company called Amplitude. It's almost like a Spotify for music streaming, and you can purchase tickets, watch videos, share, all of that. So what you see is there are two tabs, main tabs, right, in the UI. The first one is settings. This is where you set up your experiment, your targeting criteria, your goals, your metric, your variance, your delivery method, and then, statistical significance. The default is always 95% confidence level. And then to answer your question, we pivot over to the activity tab. First and foremost, I'll always just double check the dates align to, say, when you launch the test, or in some cases, you may be running an experiment where you are changing the rollout percentage in targeting criteria to increase it right after you first launch the experiment. And maybe you start with 20% and then you increase it to 50 and then eventually 100. So then if you just wanted to see, hey, the data from when we open up the experiment to 100% rollout, you can make sure the date range satisfies that criteria. And then the most important things that I like to look at is, first of all, you check if this area is green or is it red, right? So if it's green, that means the variant or whichever variant or treatment. Amplitude also uses the terminology treatment as variant. That if you see green here, that means this particular treatment or variant has performed better than our control. And visual up here, if it's green, it'll let you know clearly, yes, we've achieved a statistical significance, or it'll show pink if we have not achieved statistical significance yet. So this is the key, the summary box up here on the right-hand side. So that's really important to kind of, when you come in here, quickly look at, okay, do we have a winner or do we consider this? We like to call it a learner because whenever you don't have a winner or a clear winner, we should always be learning something from our experiments, even if it's not a clear winner. The next area, of course, we have, for this particular experiment, we only had the primary goal or primary metric set up. So there's only one metric in here. Sometimes in your experiments, you may have additional metrics set up. Those will show up as additional rows here. But when you hover over the treatment or variant column, since we only had one variant here, you'll see, all of these different stats populated here. We have sort of a set of stats that you can reference. Of course, our just general relative performance of our one variant compared to our control. And you have to hover over it to keep the pop-up. And then of course our pure absolute percentage points, right? That how much better did we perform in the variant significance. I'm 100% here, absolutely great, of course. But what's also really interesting, what I typically gravitate towards is actually this confidence interval chart. So this is the first chart that's auto-generated, and I typically like to look at this particularly for those experiments that have not achieved statistical significance. So basically, if you do see, right, the green text here saying you've achieved stat sig, that's sort of an easy winner. It's very clear which variant or variants perform better, and you immediately know, okay, yes, we have a clear winner. But when you don't have a clear winner, I really like to look at this confidence interval chart. What I'm looking for is, generally speaking, at the beginning of our experiments, the blue shaded region is very wide, and that just indicates, the blue shaded region indicates all the possible or possibilities of the mean primary metric that we've set up. So the wider the shaded region, the less confident we are of our results. So typically speaking, you want to see that when you first launch an experiment, the blue shaded region is very wide, but once you start to gather data, the blue shaded region should start to narrow. And that's what you want to see, because the narrower the shaded region becomes, the more confident we become of our data. So what I typically also look for is, you see kind of from June 20th and on, you see that the shaded region, and as well as our mean primary metric, has basically plateaued. And that plateau indicates to us that even if we let the experiment run longer, collect more data, we're probably not going to gain more confidence in our data. So this matches exactly what we see up top. We've already achieved stat sig, so we're not going to see the shaded blue area narrow even more. But in a case where we have not achieved stat sig, you've run an experiment for some time, you come in here, you're trying to decide, okay, do we keep running to collect more data, or do we think that we've gathered as much information as we can from this experiment, so we should probably consider ending it? I come to this chart, look at, have we plateaued in the shaded region in our mean primary metric? And if the answer is yes, especially if it's plateaued for a week or even more, then it's a good indicator that even if we let the experiment run for longer, we're probably not going to gain more confidence. So that's probably a good reason to probably end the test, maybe iterate on the experiment, run another experiment based on directional guidance that we're learning from our experiment. So this, I would say, is one of the most crucial charts in my opinion. And then of course the other charts, there are a lot of charts down here, but you can see, visually speaking, you mentioned you're a designer, and so purely looking at our primary metric performance, right? Our treatment, you see a much bigger percentage here. So this is a good visual indicator for you to look at. And just very quickly pointing out, under the diagnostics section, this is also where I pay attention and kind of use the section to monitor my experiments once I launch the experiment. So I want to see, for example, our assignment and exposure events for this experiment. What we've set up is a 50-50 target allocation, so even distribution. So what we want to see in these two charts is that the lines are pretty much on top of each other, indicating even 50-50 distribution. So this looks healthy for that.